morning. I'm glad to be with you again this week as we go through the Word of God together. And today we're actually going to start a new book of the Bible, and that's because we're starting a new series as a church. I'm just going to be very upfront with you. This is a strange book of the Bible, probably the strangest I've ever preached from. I'm okay with that because these are awfully strange times for all of us. So what we're going to do is we're going to step back in time about 3,000 years, and we're going to see the person of Christ and pull a lot of wisdom that we can use today out of the book of Ecclesiastes. It's going to show us how to walk through 2020 and even beyond 2020 as missionaries, a church full of missionaries to the beautiful city that God has placed us in. So you need to know that when I pray for you, as a people of God, as a church, when I pray for this city, I'm praying for a couple key primary things. One is that we grow in our gospel fascination, right? That the gospel is never a story that grows stale or old for us, but we become more and more fascinated with the gospel of Jesus Christ as we age. But the second thing is that you would be equipped for critical seasons. That you would be equipped for very difficult seasons, tough seasons like we're in right now, that you would have joy, that you would feel meaning, that you would feel purpose. And what the writer of Ecclesiastes does is helps us in the purpose department, right? Which is not just important for you, but it's important for your neighbors as well. And it's where we distinguish between what is meaningful and meaningless in our life. It's hard for us to kind of draw a line between the two. And when we struggle with that, we've got to know that people without Christ struggle with the same thing. Herman Melville, who wrote the book Moby Dick, he considers Ecclesiastes the best of Solomon's writings. He says it's the truest of all of his works. He says Ecclesiastes is the fine hammered steel of woe. He says all is vanity, which is the main phrase through the book of Ecclesiastes. And if you don't know how to interact with this book, and some of you, let's just be honest, right? You've probably never even read from this book before, some of you. It's hard to know how to interact with it. And it's very difficult to know how to interact with it without being discouraged or really just depressed, as you're going to find out today. I mean, the very first few times I read this as a young Christian, I kept asking the people around me, why is this in the Bible? It feels like such a downer, like we were having a party and then we let that guy come in that just brings the whole mood of the party down. That's what this book feels like. But it has a great place of honor in the Bible because it's out of a deep love for us and out of a deep sense of His glory that God has placed this wisdom in your Bible for you. And this book, Ecclesiastes, is meant to draw us to see Christ more clearly. And of all the years I've pastored in different roles, in different places, in different cities, in different times, through different seasons, I cannot think of a better book to go through than this book with you right now. Because the human problem we all struggle with is on full display for all of us. We carefully build our lives, putting all of our sweat and blood and tears into all of our endeavors, but we ultimately wonder at the end of the day, what will come of this? Will anything come of what I'm spending all of my time on? Will it make a difference when it's all said and done? Will it last? Will it be remembered? Ecclesiastes says, don't count on it. Don't count on it. And I think we somewhat suspect this. I've always somewhat suspected this. I mean, with time sitting above me, judging me, and death judging me all the time. We spend a lifetime building these sandcastles in the face of a storm, and then life comes along and just kicks our towers over, our sandcastles over, and reminds us that even our best attempts and our best endeavors and our best adventures fall wildly short. Now, this book fits firmly in what we call wisdom literature. You'd think after a while that it would be what we call bummer literature, but there's no such genre of biblical literature. This is wisdom literature. So the other books it would fit in would be Proverbs, Psalms, Song of Songs. Job would actually be considered wisdom literature, but this is a little bit different, right? For instance, Proverbs focuses a lot on how when we walk with an upright character, with a fear of the Lord, when we walk with what the Proverbs call wisdom, that things will work out better for us, right? This book a little different. Ecclesiastes says you can be wise and still lose it all. You can be good and you can still die young. You can plan and work and save and not get drunk and be slow to speak and all the things that the Proverbs discuss, and we can still see ruin. You see, Ecclesiastes, it's like a glitch in the matrix. It's like anti-Proverbs almost, but it's wisdom when it comes down to it. Wisdom for you and wisdom for me. Now, it might be wisdom in a different dialect, but Christ is excited that this is in our Bible because it's wisdom for us. God gave it to you and me as a tool for the uncertainties of life, and that's where we find ourselves today. But wisdom like this, it's going to force us to have very hard conversations with ourselves, and that, friends, we do not like to do. We don't like to face reality. We like to escape it. This is what Andrew Sullivan says. He's a writer in the New York Magazine. He says, our modern world tries extremely hard to protect us from the sort of existential moments. Netflix, air conditioning, sex apps, Alexa, Kale, Pilates, Spotify, Twitter, they're all designed to create a world in which we rarely get a second to confront ultimate meaning. Until a tragedy occurs, a death happens, or a diagnosis strikes. You see, humanity just doesn't do reality very well. In this century, we don't really have to do reality very well. But then every once in a while, just as Sullivan says, a tragedy occurs. Something makes us forces us really to look at reality, to think about it, to meditate on what it means for all of us individually. And in our case, a virus came and kicked over all of our sandcastles. And here we are. We've had to come face to face with our ultimate meaning and our ultimate fragility. And what is meaningful and what is meaningless and what is temporary and what will be remembered forever. My hope in this is that you gain the tools and the equipment to greet reality, but to do so with a gospel trust and a gospel fascination and a joy and a satisfaction that all is not meaningless, but there is meaning in everything. It's going to be the reverse. So let's just go ahead and jump in, and I'll walk you through the first few verses, but we're going to be in Ecclesiastes 1. We're starting in verse 1. So if you have a Bible, turn to that part in your Bible. It's right after Proverbs. And it says this is the word of the Lord for us today. The words of the preacher, the son of David, king in Jerusalem. Vanity of vanities, says the preacher. Vanity of vanities. All is vanity. Okay, just real quickly. It's the preacher that is saying these things. It's the preacher that's being introduced by an author. Now, this preacher, that's where we get the word Ecclesiastes from. They mean pretty much the same thing. One who gathers, one who teaches, one who assembles and communicates. That's Ecclesiastes comes from the same root word as ecclesia, which means gathered ones. So someone is gathering people, and in this case it's the preacher, and that's who you'll hear me referring to. Now, it could be Solomon. That's what it looks like at first reading, and that's probably what some of you have always grown up to understand. But most scholars are split right down the middle on whether this is Solomon or not. If you care about that sort of thing, and I doubt you do, but if you do, I have a long list of books with a long list of smart people that spill a lot of ink on why they think it is or is not Solomon, okay? You might not care about that. If it matters, I lean a little bit more towards it being Solomon, but if you don't agree with that, we can still be friends, okay? Because if it wasn't Solomon, it was still somebody writing from a place of high privilege and royalty, a place of ultimate power, a place of ultimate wealth, a person with every opportunity, someone not us. That's what you're supposed to get from this. Someone that has things that we don't have. Someone that has all the opportunities that we'll never get. That's important. Because what we do is we always project and we think that if we had the money that this person did, or the ability that that person has, or the opportunities that this person has, or the genetics that someone else has, that our life would be better. It would be meaningful instead of meaningless. When we have a blank, we always fill it in. If I grew up a little bit taller, if I had a better family, if I went to a better college, if I had a better spouse, if I had whatever it is for you, This passage removes this from us because the preacher says he had everything. He had wealth, he had opportunity, he had wisdom, and no doors ever shut in his face. He had perfect opportunity to do anything he wanted to. He's speaking from the highest perch of royalty. And he says it's all vanity. He removes the ability for you and me to say we could do it better. Some say that it's very likely that Solomon wrote the Song of Songs as a young man, that he wrote Proverbs in his middle years, and that it was in his twilight years that he wrote this reflection that we call Ecclesiastes. Maybe, sure. I mean, because this guy is caring and he's kingly, but he's also jaded. You could tell he's older and reflecting, and he's looking for meaning. He gets to the end of his life, and now he's lamenting of a sort, right? Definitely reflecting. And we don't want to hear this reflection. We don't want to hear him talk about this, which is why this is not your favorite book, right? Nobody has a bookmark in the book of Ecclesiastes. If this is your favorite book, you're just a weirdo, because it's 12 chapters of, hey, you think that this is going to work out well for you, but it's not, right? I probably shouldn't be so harsh. You're probably not a weirdo, but you're different from everybody else. I mean, Ecclesiastes is just not anyone's favorite book. Now, as I said earlier, someone is introducing the preacher here. We'll call this person the author, and the author is actually going to show up a little bit later on towards the end, kind of forms the brackets of these collected truths and these collected writings from the preacher, the one who is speaking all of this wisdom to you and me. So we're going to meet him again. But the theme that goes like a main stanza through the entire work, all 12 chapters, is that everything is vanity. Vanity. Now, this word vanity might not mean what you think it means just off the cuff. It doesn't mean like a place where girls put makeup on, obviously. It doesn't just mean prideful, which is kind of how we traffic in the word. The word comes from hevel in the Old Testament, or in the Hebrew, hevel, which is interesting. Hevel means there, but not really there. Like a mist, or a vapor, or smoke, or a fog of some kind. It's something, but it's not really anything, all at the same time. It's absurdity, it's futility, it's meaningless, it's emptiness. It's all kind of poured into one word, hevel. And that word is almost 40 times found in this short book of Ecclesiastes. And the reason it shows up so much is because English poetry, the poetry we learn in high school and some of us in college, that poetry works on repeated sounds. But Hebrew poetry works on repeated ideas. And hevel is the repeated idea that elusively we see things and we see purpose, but it's really just not there. It's meaningless. It's vapor. Let's go ahead and jump back in. Verse 3. What does man gain by all the toil at which he toils under the sun? A generation goes and a generation comes, but the earth remains forever. The sun rises and the sun goes down and hastens to the place where it rises. The wind blows to the south and goes around to the north. Around and around goes the wind, and on its circuits the wind returns. All streams run to the sea, but the sea is not full. To the place where the streams flow, there they flow again. All things are full of weariness. A man cannot utter it. The eye is not satisfied with seeing, nor the ear filled with hearing. Okay, if we just pause right there, we start tripping on life's big question already. What is at the end of all of this that I'm doing? What is at the end? And weariness is pictured for you by using nature as the art. It's weariness. Even nature is stuck in a cul-de-sac, according to this passage, going around and around, repeating, being unoriginal as often as it is. I mean, wind is recycled when you think about it. There's no such thing as new wind. It's the same air, right? Same thing with water. The sun itself is stuck in a rut, like it's on a carousel that's broken. It's just on the same circuit, repeating itself over and over again. I mean, when you're outside and the wind is blowing leaves across your lawn, or you're standing in a stream and the water just finds a way to get around you, you need to know that that's old. That's not new. It's the same old wind and the same old water that's been around since the very dawn of time. Nothing is new. Nothing is new. All of nature is remixed from day to day. Creation is stuck on a treadmill, right? Exhausted, fatigued, weary, he says, but not getting anywhere. That's the picture for you and me. That's what we're supposed to pull from this. All things are full of weariness and fatigue and very, very unsatisfying. And just like nature, you and I, as part of creation, we're stuck on the same treadmill. Can't get off the carousel, it's broken. Stuck in the same cul-de-sac, exhausting ourselves, fatiguing ourselves, hopping off just to find out that we haven't gone anywhere. We labor and we toil until one day it just all goes black for us. Hey, are you encouraged yet? Are you glad you clicked on this video? Just wait, it gets better. It gets better. Let's jump in, verse 9. What has been is what will be, and what has been done is what will be done. And there is nothing new under the sun. And there is a thing of which it is said, see, this is new. It has already been in the ages before us. There is no remembrance of former things, nor will there be any remembrance of later things yet to be among those who come after. Okay, it's getting more morose, even if that wasn't possible. Not only is the cosmos wearied by its circular repetition, so are our brilliant ideas. Those aren't even new. Nothing new under the sun does not mean that we don't make new stuff, right? I mean, the smartphone I have is far better than the smartphone I had 7 years ago or even 7 months ago. We do make new things, but these new things aren't doing new things for us, right? We're not changing. I mean, the iPhone 11, that's new, right? It's new. But communication, organization, connection, the things that the phone gives us, that's been around forever, hasn't it? I mean, when you think about it, your iPhone came from a Palm Pilot back before 2007. And before Palm Pilots, you'd have flip phones. Before flip phones, you'd have bag phones. Remember those cool things in between the front two seats of a car? Maybe before that, a pager, I guess. And before that, you'd have the landline that was jacked straight into the phone lines in your house. Some of you are young enough to not ever have been in a house that had a landline, but those are probably still around. But before landlines, we had, I don't know, letters and postcards. I mean, we've always been a communicating people. There really is nothing new under the sun. There's nothing new about you and me. I was thinking about the 1982 World's Fair the other day. We have one of the pictures of it in our house. And I just was curious, what were the things that showed up on the scene for the very first time? What was new in the World's Fair? And this is what I found out. Touch screens showed up for the first time at our World's Fair here in Knoxville, right? Pay at the pump to get your gas. That was introduced here in 1982. Here's the big one. Cherry Coke showed up for the first time at our World's Fair. And at that time, people are all walking around World's Fair Park and downtown, and they're looking at each other and they're saying, can you believe this? This new thing? This touch screen? You just touch the screen. What about Cherry Coke? Listen, it's not Coke, it's Cherry Coke. Can you believe this? We're still doing that. We still look at each other and say, can you believe this? And yet, there's nothing new under the sun. We make new trinkets and new flavors and new toys, but we're the same people. We still fall in love. We still fall apart. We still make kids. We still get married. We still die. We still mourn. We still build. We still fix. We still tear down. We are the same people. Nothing truly is significant. Even movies do this, right? Every movie you've seen is a piece of the hero's journey or the hero's story. You have a hero in every story, right? Maybe they're a failed hero or a broken hero, and that's to get you to resonate with them. Or maybe it's a perfect hero, which is someone that you look up and want to be like. But the hero always has what? A villain, right? And always a moment of testing. Usually a piece of testing that stretches the hero beyond what they thought that they could ever do, right? And then they always overcome. They succeed in the end. This is what Star Wars is about. This is what The Karate Kid is about. Every Western, all the way up to every Marvel movie. You want to know why? Because there's nothing new under the sun. That's why. We dress the same story up in different ways, but there's nothing new. And the preacher here would also like you to know that also nothing is remembered either. This is crazy. That nothing, listen, if you're a big league world changer, I mean, you really stand out and you do things that will put you on the front page of all of your apps for years on end, the most you can hope for is to be vaguely remembered and blurted out in some trivia game in the future. That's pretty much it. The other day I was with some friends at a restaurant that had a bar next to it, and we were listening to trivia night, and they were belting out all these questions, and I would catch myself thinking of an answer, right? And it would be a person. I know that person's name. It's Andrews, or it's Jackson, or it's Jefferson. I would start thinking of the last names and first names. It would be rattling around. I could barely pull it. All these concussions from flag football and late night studying from college has messed up my mind, I'm sure. But I would barely be able to recollect a last name. Just the last name. I couldn't tell you anything about that person. And here's the thing. They were a really big deal back in the day. Huge deal. Not anymore. Not anymore. I mean, statues being removed today, that proves that I'm right. I mean, if a statue of Robert E. Lee, for instance, is being pulled down, you couldn't tell me 10 things about Robert E. Lee. And here they are, immortalized in bronze or marble. You couldn't tell me 10 things, right? What do you think your great-grandkids are going to know? Probably 3 things, maybe 2, right? What about your great-grandpa? What about your great-great-grandpa? Do you even know his name? And if you do, what did he do 60 hours a week? What kind of a man was he? Was he a man of character? Did he tell fart jokes? Was he a nerd? Was he funny? Was he good to his wife? What kind of guy was he? We don't know. And just like that, your great-grandkids might have a memory of you. They might remember what the house smelled like. Your great-great-grandkids, probably not anything. They might not even know your name. They probably won't even know where you're buried. Listen, this drives me nuts, this aspect of what the preacher is talking about, because I want to leave a dent in this world so bad. I do. I want to make a difference. Not just today, but one that rolls forward in time long after I'm gone. I've always wanted this. Nobody wants to disappear into the noise of anonymity. Nobody wants to do that. I want to do things. I want to achieve things. I have plans, and the preacher says, don't count on it. Don't count on it. Nobody is going to remember you after a while. Get used to anonymity. And I know some of you are twisting right now. Luke, not me. I've got a bunch of plans. And I bet you do. Go tell it to the mountains and the moon. Go tell it to the water and the wind. They've seen it. They've heard the plans. They've seen many come and go. And all things are wearied and fatigued and forgotten. That's what their testimony will be. You know, whatever you're losing sleep over today, good news for you is it will be forgotten in the future. This home that you're killing yourself to pay down, one day it's going to be condemned. They'll put tape across the door, and then a bulldozer will come and will knock it down. That laptop you just bought, as soon as you pulled it off the shelf, it became obsolete, and they replaced it with another laptop, right? The car you're saving up to buy, one day it's going to sit in a scrapyard waiting until someone pulls the water pump out of it, right? This is it. All is hevel. It's a vapor. It's here, it's gone. It's there, but not really there. How are we doing? Are you hanging in with me? Are you super glad for this sermon today or this series? Seriously, you already suspected this, didn't you? I know you did. He's just simply making you confront it, dwell on it, and think about it. Is this all there really is? Why am I doing all of this? Is there anything new really at the end of this? Think of that movie in 1993, Groundhog Day, with Bill Murray, right? If you've seen this movie, it's kind of an iconic movie, at least from my childhood, where he is stuck in a time loop where every day is February 2nd. And this is what it feels like for a lot of us. That's why the movie's been ripped off so many times and repackaged in different ways. Because all of us do the same thing. We get up at the same time. We get dressed in the same 9 outfits that we have hanging in our closet. We get in the car. We drive the same way to work. We deal with the same problems, maybe different names or different flavors, but it's the same problems, right? And then when we're done, we get back in the car and we drive home listening to the same radio station until we get home, and then we have the same set of meals or leftovers made from the meals, and then we have the same conversations with the same people as we sit down and watch the same Netflix every night, and then we go to bed and we rinse and we repeat. It's Groundhog Day. Every day is Tuesday. Bill Murray says it's the same thing every day in this movie. Clean up your room, stand up straight, pick up your feet, take it like a man, be nice to your sister, don't mix beer and wine ever. Oh yeah, don't drive on the railroad tracks. I mean, it's funny, but it's also real. There's some reality to it. And we like to pretend that our life isn't getting stuck. We like to pretend that we're not in a rut. And the best way that we do this is we attach ourselves to new things, new people, new places, new ideas, new moments. Anything new. A new house, a new vacation home, a better vacation home, a new car, a new phone, a new spouse, a new app, a new church, a new everything. Something to convince us that we are not stuck. This is why advertising convinces you that it's the old thing that is holding you back and you need the new thing. The new thing is really where you will find meaning in this world. We love the thought of escaping a meaningless life. We love the thought of escaping weariness. Let's go on. This is what he says in verse 12. I, the preacher, have been king over Israel and Jerusalem, and I applied my heart to seek and to search out by wisdom all that is done under heaven. It is an unhappy business that God has given to the children of man to be busy with. I have seen everything that is done under the sun, and behold, all is vanity and a striving after wind. What is crooked cannot be made straight, and what is lacking cannot be counted. I said in my heart, I have acquired great wisdom, surpassing all who were over Jerusalem before me. And my heart has had great experience of wisdom and knowledge. And I applied my heart to know wisdom and to know madness and folly. I perceive that this also is but a striving after wind. For in much wisdom is much vexation, and he who increases knowledge increases sorrow. So Solomon, or the preacher, uses all of his faculties to experience life under the sun in all different directions. And those are some of the things we'll get to explore as we move through the book. But with all the money and all the opportunity and all the know-how, the conclusion that he has is still that everything is meaningless. It's hevel. It's vanity. It's not there. As Hemingway says, life is just a dirty trick, a short journey from nothingness to nothingness. I think he understood Ecclesiastes probably more than people give him credit for. Again, why is this in the Bible? Why do we need this book? It's a good question. The answer is it carries us to Jesus. You're not going to find any answers in Ecclesiastes. It's a book full of questions. There's no answers. The answers are found in the gospel. And that's where this carries us. It takes us to the very end of ourself, and then it marches us further to the cross and the empty tomb, where meaning is found, where purpose is found, where joy is found. Ecclesiastes does this for us because it shows us what life under the sun looks like. And that's also a phrase we're going to see over 30 times. Life under the sun. All that is a life trying to squeeze satisfaction and meaning and purpose from this world, to squeeze every essence of every second for meaning today here. And the preacher says, you can do it, but it's absurdity. It won't work. With Jesus, all is not meaningless though. With Christ, everything is full of meaning. In order for this life to have meaning, there has to be more to this life than what we see with our eyes and touch with our hands. There has to be more, and that means we put trust and faith that God is at work in our Groundhog Day, our boring Tuesdays. You need to know that your work and your struggle and your toil, it has meaning, deep meaning, because Jesus has worked and struggled to bring your life purpose and rest. And now your work, and your toil, and your celebration, and your leftovers, and your labor, and your laundry, and your lawn care, it all has meaning baked into it. A life under this flaming ball of gas we call the sun, a life just standing on this spinning rock we call the earth, if that's all we have, then yeah, it'll be easy to be discouraged and depressed. But that's not all we have, is it? The gospel states differently. Without Christ, all is absurdity and meaningless, but with Christ, everything has meaning. We see this in John 10:10. Don't turn there, stay where you're at. It says, the thief comes, this is Christ, saying the thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. Jesus says that I came that they may have life and have it abundantly. You see, Jesus removes the futility from our lives. He extracts it out, and he gives us the purpose that we've all been dying for. We've all been wasting away for. Everything we long for, all the meaning and the purpose and the remembrance and the significance is wrapped up in how God has taken care of you and me through the person of Christ. It's the triumphant gospel story. The gospel story is a beautiful one where God steps into our futility, our absurdity, our meaninglessness. He steps right into the middle of it, and he pulls us out of this treadmill, this cul-de-sac of just wasting away and this hunt for significance that's never going to come in this world. That's how he finds us. He found us building sandcastles in the face of storms. He finds us attaching our happiness to trinkets and toys and new things. He finds us trying to leave a dent in this world, leave a mark that our great-great-great-great-grandkids will adore us for. He finds us looking for satisfaction in this world and coming up wildly short. That's how he finds us. And God saves us from our sin, but not just from our sin, from a meaningless life, a life that doesn't have any purpose to it. He also rescues us from self-destruction. I mean, he does a lot of things on the cross. The primary is he glorifies God by defeating the giant of sin and the giant of death, but he also rescues you and me from cyclical shame and cyclical sin of looking for significance outside of the Lord. Here's proof of it. When you go to John 4, and again, you can stay where you're at. We'll splash this on the screen. It's important you stay in Ecclesiastes. But in John 4, verse 13, we'll pick up the end of a conversation that Christ is having with the Samaritan woman. A woman who went out to pull water out of a well at a different time in the day when all the other women did it, right? Because she had some shame attached to her existence that the other women didn't have. She goes out there, she meets Jesus, Jesus asks for water, she starts having this conversation with him about the water and why he's talking to her, and he mentions living water. And this is where the conversation picks up. Jesus said to her, verse 13, everyone who drinks of this water will be thirsty again, but whoever drinks of the water that I will give him will never be thirsty again. The water that I will give him will become in him a spring of water welling up to eternal life. The woman said to him, Sir, give me this water so that I will not be thirsty or have to come here to draw water. And Jesus said to her, Go, call your husband and come here. The woman answered him, I have no husband. Jesus said to her, You are right in saying I have no husband, for you have had 5 husbands, and the one you now have is not your husband. What you have said is true. Okay, this woman is caught on a carousel of shame. Caught on this treadmill of meaninglessness, purposelessness. And this woman knew that her hunt for satisfaction was a wide miss. New men didn't make her new. She couldn't attach herself to enough new things to bring her a meaningful life. Everything was just a mist for her, a vapor for her. I mean, I can just see the conversation she's having in her head as she's marching out to get more water. What is at the end of me doing all of this? What is the purpose of all of this? The wind's not new. The water's not even new. Why am I doing this? Just another Tuesday of getting water, just another Tuesday of listening to everyone whisper about me and slander me, finding another man maybe, trying to attach myself to make sure that I am not in some sort of a rut, repeating and remixing every single day. Why? To what end? This woman was saved from her sin, primarily. But Jesus also rescued her from this loop of hevel, of everything being a vapor, of trying to live under the sun. When storms of life slam into your sandcastles, as you're listening to me, you have to take a hard look at life under the sun. And you need to ask yourself, will I let this carry me to Christ, where everything is meaningful, or am I going to double down and keep trusting in this world and try to fill in that blank? More money, more opportunity, more people, more new things. You see, the world sees life under the sun. The world also sees that it's vanity and it's fruitless, and it just can't do anything different about it. It just kind of suffers under this mindless truth. Whether it's Melville or Hemingway or Mick Jagger saying, I can't get no satisfaction. I try and I try and I try and I try. The world will even admit that all is hevel, there but not really there. It might sing songs about it. It might write words. But upon its deepest reflections, all they find is what Melville called the hammered steel of woe. Just sadness. For the Christ follower, however, we take our lives of hevel to the Lord, and He reminds us through His gospel story that this is not your home. This is not your home. There's more to this. Of course you can't see it. Of course you can't touch it. But there's more. There's more going on in the background. All is not meaningless. Everything is full of meaning. Every moment of every boringly predictable day doing boringly predictable things is full of meaning. Every heartbeat, every day at work, every leftover, everything. Time will not have the final say over your life, Christian. Death won't even have the final say over your life. Listen, if you're a Christian, what are you doing with the reflection that nothing will satisfy you here? Nothing will be remembered here. Nothing will last here. You'll never find significance and total meaning and total purpose here. Where is that leading you? If it's leading you straight into depression, you haven't chased the thought all the way down the path yet. It needs to land you close to Christ, where with open arms He says, all is hevel under the sun. But with me, all is not hevel. All is not meaningless. All is not a vapor. And friends, listen, if you're a skeptic, not a Christian, if you combined all the wealth of Jeff Bezos and the 5 guys trying to catch up with him, and the acclaim and the opportunity and the popularity of LeBron James and 5 of your favorite celebrities, if you had the wisdom of the wisest professors in all of the universities, if you had all the time you needed and all the doors opened to you, do you think you could outrun this? Do you think you'd bust out of the rut? You think you'd find something new? Because our writer had all of these things. You could listen to him. You already know and you've already suspected that he's telling you the truth right now. Rather than being nihilistic or fatalistic, Christ answers the gaping needs that our heart really carries to a passage like this, the needs that we're dying to get. You have an opportunity to join the woman by the well. You have an opportunity to have a spring of living water well up in you as you trust Christ, the hero of our gospel, the one who tells you and me, the one who tells us all that life under this sun is hevel, but life with me is eternal. Friends, listen, we have a great God. And there will be a day when there will be no crooked paths, that everything that was crooked, as He says, will be made straight. And we will see in full living color, and we will hear in stereo. And we will experience Christ at such a level that all the vapor and all the mist and all the fog of what we had here will become a delight and a treasure and eternal for us there. That life is full of meaning. There will be a day where we get to experience that. But until that time, we have our normal. We have our Tuesdays. We have our chores. We have our normal routines to experience God, to treasure what He has done for us in the midst of our hearts, to say thank you, to celebrate the gospel, and to move through even tough seasons. And we're going to find out as we go through this book what that looks like as it is applied. So just know I'm going to be praying for you this week. If you need anything, you can find us online, legacyknoxville.com. You can email us at info@legacyknoxville.com. I hope you're doing well. Like I said, we're praying for you. Let us know if you need anything. I love you a bunch. Have a great week. We'll talk to you next time.